Tussles between Reserve Bank governors and finance ministers is part of folklore in India. But that government's hit back not only by arm twisting the Reserve Bank on interest rates, but also on appointment of deputy governors, payment of dividends from the Reserve Bank to the government, reappointment of the governor, arm twisting banks not to abide by the Reserve Bank's advice to raise rates. All this is a revelation. The man who made us wiser with his tell-all book is none other than former Reserve Bank Governor Dr. Subba Rao, whose book, Who Moved My Interest Rate? Leading the Reserve Bank of India Through 5 Turbulent Years, is now on the stands. But books like these often hide more than they reveal, and therefore to get to the story behind the story, I have with me today the storyteller himself, Dr. D. Subba Rao, former Governor, Reserve Bank of India. Dr. Subba Rao, it's a pleasure to have you with us in the CNBC TV 18 studio itself. It's an honor.
Thank you, Lata. Delighted to be here.
Okay, well, first up, like I introduced the book, it is a tell-all book. And there is a lot of detail about of the goings-on between you and the finance minister of the day, Mr. Chidambaram, and Pranab Mukherjee. Mr. Chidambaram has given a very brilliant endorsement, a very warm endorsement, learned, meticulous. His intellectual integrity shines on every page. He had no misgivings about the book?
I believe not. In fact, I think Mr. Chidambaram has been very magnanimous. I requested him whether he would give an endorsement for my book, and he readily agreed even before seeing the draft. Okay. And when the publisher sent him the draft, he gave an endorsement directly to them, and I was really grateful to him for that generosity that he showed.
Okay. Even after reading the script, there was no telling you that,
none so at all. In fact, I believe he said in some interview about the book that he believes in free speech. He said, this is my version, and he believed that that was par for the course.
Okay. Well, what about Mr. Pranab Mukherjee? There are some incidents that you have narrated.
No, I don't. The President's office nor anyone from there contacted me.
You. Okay. Well, let's come to the book itself, and how you grew in the book. You mention in detail how you took office and slowly became comfortable with the position. As the finance secretary, you had very, very different goals. At what point did you, become a Reserve Bank man from being a government man?
Well, I should say, at the point when I took the plane from Delhi to Mumbai, gave up, signed off as the finance secretary and signing on as the governor, I believe mid-air I became a Reserve Bank man.
Well, that is a little difficult because you do carry out several targets, or have very many targets in mind when you are finance secretary. Did you not try to convince the Reserve Bank people at some point in time that you all can't be, all inflation minded? Did you at some point have to convince them of the government's point of view?
Well, of course, these things come up in internal discussions, not exactly as the government's point of view, but about whether the Reserve Bank is actually making the right judgment on the tension between growth and inflation, what different people are saying, not just the government, but everyone else, the markets, analysts such as yourselves. So the Reserve Bank takes all that into account, and these things do come up for discussion. But it's not as if it's the government's point of view that we should, are we taking into consideration adequately or not? No, not really that way.
Okay. What about Reserve Bank itself? When did you feel accepted as one of theirs?
No, it's difficult to say, but I think by about the end of the first year, I think they started believing that they believed my credentials, okay. That whatever I did was with complete professional integrity. I may have made mistakes from their point of view, but those mistakes were not because I was prompted by the government. Okay.
Okay, if you're saying that in the flight from Delhi to Mumbai, you converted yourself from being a government's finance secretary to Reserve Bank of India governor, surely as the finance secretary, you were aware that the Reserve Bank is an honorable institution with an honorable goal. Then why is it that people like you are not able to mediate with the finance minister and pull him back? I mean, the battle between Finance Minister Chidambaram and Y.V. Reddy are even more acrimonious, from what we understood in the press, than your battle with Chidambaram. Why didn't you as a finance secretary mollify him?
What do you mean, why did I not, as Finance Secretary, mollify him? As Finance Secretary, you are privy to some of this. I wouldn't say all of them are battles. There are differences of opinions. Sometimes they're more contentious. Sometimes they're little more disagreeable than other times. And of course, you try to understand both points of view and advise either side. I completely did that. I mean, your presumption that I did not do that as Finance Secretary, I think, is mistaken.
Okay, no, I'll tell you why. You have mentioned in your book, and that page I'm not able to get, that often monetary policy transmission is impeded because just the day after the Reserve Bank raised interest rates, the finance minister would speak to banks and almost direct them not to increase interest rates. Now, one such an event happened in your time. Y.V. Reddy in January of 2008, or was it February of 2008, refused to cut rates, although the Fed by the time had brought interest rates down substantially. Many cuts had come, base terms had already fallen. And because Y.V. Reddy did not cut rates, he called for bankers. And I remember it was O.P. Bhatt Khandelwal of Bank of Baroda and Bank of India's Narayan Swamy, and asked them to cut rates. This is an event that you as Finance Secretary were witness to. And 6 months later, when crude had touched $148, you as Finance Secretary was giving a press conference saying, RBI is the first line of defense, asking the governor to raise rates. So, you know, what I'm not able to understand is 6 months ago, why didn't you curb your finance minister?
No, your presumption that I did not curb the finance minister is wrong. Nor am I trying to give the impression that I tried to curb the finance minister. The consultation or the discussion between the finance secretary and the finance minister is privileged. And a lot of things happen. Honestly, I cannot recall the instance that you're referring to when the finance minister, as you say, called for bankers and asked them not to raise rates or whatever. But certainly there have been a lot of discussions between me and the finance minister, and it's the finance minister's prerogative to take the secretary's advice or not. I don't think he was wrong in not taking my advice. Okay? But I think, you know, these things happen over different scenarios, over different contexts, and you cannot pinpoint one incident and say, did you or did you not advise the finance minister on this?
Okay. No, I only felt that, the current governor was CEA when you were governor, so I would have wanted to ask him, did he restrain the finance minister from using the phrase walk alone? What I'm saying is, the finance ministry has enough people who understand the Reserve Bank's point of view.
And about the... when I was finance secretary, you referred to my statement as the Reserve Bank and the monetary policy, the first line of defense. I still think that is correct. Even as governor, I held that view, that monetary policy is the first line of defense when inflation is up. Of course, you need supply-side responses, but they take time. So until then, you've got to defend inflation or defend price stability with the monetary policy.
So there were many instances when you were speaking for Y.V. Reddy in the finance ministry?
Well, you know, those are all internal discussions. But certainly, I tried to put across his point of view to the finance minister, and I tried to put across the finance minister's point of view to Governor Reddy.
Okay. Well, which brings me to the question I really wanted to ask you first. How much does the book reveal? How much does it not reveal? Is what you have not revealed much more?
There is certainly some that I have not revealed. For example, there were some issues which I thought were, could not be disclosed because of Official Secrets Act or because of the code of conduct of the job, or, for example, what happens in the board meetings of the Reserve Bank, etc. So that's not revealed in the book. Okay. Even some other instances, I drew my own line about how much I want to disclose and how much I want to withhold. And no matter how much you push, I don't think I'll be any more forthcoming than what I've been in the book. No,
that was not my effort, but my effort was just to know whether what is not told is even juicier.
No, I don't think so.
Or more educating.
I don't know about more educating, but certainly not juicier.
Okay.
There would have been a little more detail, but I think the gist of what I wanted to convey is there.
Okay. Well, you have spoken about how the Reserve Bank deputy governors were not given extension. Both Pranab Mukherjee and Chidambaram used that as a stick to beat the Reserve Bank. Incident about Usha Thorat, where you say that you even went armed with the precedent of Shyamala Gopinath, and you said that about Pranab Mukherjee, he didn't budge, and Usha became part of the price we had to pay for asserting the autonomy of the Reserve Bank. Was Usha only paying the price for autonomy of the Reserve Bank? There was at that time other events like the Bank of Rajasthan case that she was handling.
I thought I mentioned that. I thought I said that Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee is believed to have been irked by a number of decisions taken by Mrs. Thorat. Okay. So I mentioned that.
Okay. And even in Subir Gokaran's case, was it only because he was seen as an RBI man?
I pushed as much as I could.
No, were there other reasons why?
No, I told, all the reasons that I got to know, I've said in the book later, because Mr. Chidambaram told me that, all the people who entered the Reserve Bank, such as me included, have become hostage to the technocracy of the Reserve Bank.
I can read that quote.
Yes.
The reason he gave was that all of us who entered the Reserve Bank laterally had become hostage to the technocrats in the Reserve Bank, and the government felt it necessary to bring some fresh thinking into the Reserve Bank.
So he did. He said that, and I argued with him, or I requested him that that is not the case, and that he should defer to my judgment on an incumbent deputy governor. It's not as if the post is open and we're selecting somebody afresh. It's an incumbent deputy governor being given a reappointment, and I requested him that he should defer to my judgment, but he did not think so.
Okay. But this is a little strange, because the person who replaced Dr. Gokaran actually was even more committed to bringing down inflation, and is the author of the Urjit Patel report, which places inflation as the most important goal of the Reserve Bank or function of the Reserve Bank.
Well,
so
you say strange,
it doesn't wash.
You say strange because you have a certain picture in your mind about what sort of a person should have replaced Subir Gokaran, but that's not the point. The point really was that
they were clearly punishing.
They clearly wanted to send a signal that some lateral thinking, the way of thinking of the Reserve Bank at that time was not, the government was not comfortable with.
How would you rate the Reserve Bank staff, Dr. Subbarao? When you joined and the Lehman crisis struck, you were barely 10 days old. You mentioned in detail that you went through many meetings and sit-ins with the staff. But do you think the Reserve Bank was competent to handle any event or incident that gave you a feeling that a little more could have been done? Or was it a feeling that here's a superb force and I shouldn't worry?
First of all, I want to say that the professional competence of the Reserve Bank is the best in the world. Our people have been recognized in central bank circles as for their expertise, experience, and for their competence. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And after having been in the Reserve Bank, I'm convinced about the depth and breadth of not only competence, but of professional integrity within the Reserve Bank. It's not as if that revelation came to me on the day I joined the Reserve Bank. It's something that I realized over time.
No, I'll tell you why I'm asking you to recall any incident. When you bid farewell to Shyamala Gopinath, you narrated an incident saying that on the night of September 15th, she called you at probably 1 in the morning, and spoke to you at length on what might happen to the rupee. And your first instinct was, why is this woman calling me at 1 in the morning? So at some point in time, did it feel that the Reserve Bank is overreacting, or did that only increase your awe for the force?
I don't think they ever overreacted. Certainly, I had developed a lot of respect, the respect which deepened as I continued in the Reserve Bank.
As we now know, after your term and during the term of the current governor, the government has put its signature to the Monetary Policy Framework Agreement and therefore binds itself to the Reserve Bank's inflation target. Will that solve things or make things more acrimonious? We will ask that question and, of course, a lot of questions on the rupees tantrums with Dr. Subbarao in a minute after this break.